What's up, gamers? This is John with Gamester81.com. So in this episode, I'll be reviewing the new Sega Genesis classic game console. I like to kind of nickname this the Genesis Model 4. Just came out recently. I didn't even know this thing existed. I was actually shopping at a Walgreens pharmacy, and the corner of my eye, I was going down one of the aisles, and the corner of my eye, I saw Sonic the Hedgehog, caught my eye, and then I saw Sega Genesis. I'm like, this is interesting. This retails for $60 US, and it comes with 80 built-in games. But the cool thing is, supposedly you can play most, it claims to play anyway, most of the original Genesis games. So we're going to test that out and see how that actually works. But some of the games are included on the back here. Our Alex Kidd includes all the Echo Dolphins games. So you got Echo 1, 2, and Junior. You also have Comic Zone, which is one of my favorite Genesis games out there. Sonic, Sonic & Knuckles, Sonic 2, Sonic 3, Sonic 3D Blast. Has Virtua Fighter 2, Streets of Rage 1, 2, 3. So as you can see, it's also got Golden Axe 1, 2, and Golden Axe 3, which Golden Axe 3, if you guys aren't aware, it was never really officially released in North America. It was available through the Sega channel, but never had an official cartridge release. So that's cool that Golden Axe 3 is on there. And there's some games on here that I'd never even heard of. A lot of these lower ones here, maybe a third of these, are games that maybe are homebrew games that never really officially released for the Genesis. Some of them are Checker. I never heard of that. Black Sheep, Bottle Tap Race, which sounds kind of odd. Cannon, Mr. Balls. That sounds like a really fun game. But you know, the cool thing, the reason I picked this up is because it allows you to play normal Genesis games as well. It comes with 2 wireless controllers, which look like Genesis controllers. It's got the official Sega Genesis logo, so it's licensed from Sega, and this is made by Games. The same Games also makes the Atari Flashback plug and play, so this is kind of a cool thing for them to do. Like I said before, I had no idea that this was actually released. I can tell you from the feel of the box, it's very, very lightweight. It almost feels like it's empty. So let's plug it in and see how this actual thing works. So here's a closer look at the box itself. You got the console here. I'm not quite sure how big it is at this point. You got the 2 controllers, wireless controllers. It says compatible with Genesis cartridge. And if you look at the fine print here, it says right here in fine print, some cartridges are not compatible due to cartridge conditions or original specifications of games and cartridge hardware. So we'll test some games and see how well it actually works for them. List of 5 games here highlights Sonic 1, 2, Sonic & Knuckles, Echo, Golden Axe. It's got 80 games included. Games developed this, as I mentioned before. Another look at the console. The package includes the console itself, 80 games in one, 2 wireless controllers, AC power adapter, and instruction manual. Here's the back. Now, I haven't heard of half these games right down here. All these games below I haven't really heard of. It's like got chess and some really kind of maybe homebrew games. These are more main games. I'd say about 2/3 of them I've heard of. And they're pretty popular Sega released titles, columns, etc., so forth. Very lightweight, as I mentioned before. Let's open this up, see what's inside. What do we have? We have the console itself. Very lightweight. It feels like it's hollow, actually, like it's not much in there. That's cool. You have a 9-pin, so you can actually plug in normal Genesis controllers if you'd like, which is nice. Here's kind of where the wireless would work, I guess, feed from. You have your on and off. This is your menu button. This is where the cartridge to plug into, if you want to have any cartridge to plug into. This is your video and audio out. It doesn't look like it's in stereo, unfortunately. No high def either. Here's where the power adapter plug into. So easy to hook up, it looks like, which is nice. Here are the controllers. D-pad. Feels interesting. It doesn't really feel like your normal Genesis D-pad. Maybe a little bit loose. We'll see how it actually responds. Here's your XYZ ABC. This is your menu button, your start button. This is 1, 2 players. You can determine which players play on what controller. It doesn't look like there's an on and off. Imagine that just goes to sleep mode. Here's the light to indicate that it is on. It runs off the batteries. It uses these tiny little screws here. I hate that. I think they do that for choking reasons, but it's really annoying. I'm assuming it takes AA batteries. It could take AAA batteries as well. Actually, it probably does take AAA batteries, looking at the size here. But it does feel kind of good to the hand, and it is kind of lightweight. It's a little lighter than a standard Genesis controller, I'd say. You have your AC adapter. Another indicator light shows it's plugged in. Looks like there's plenty of length, which is a good thing. Here's your AV cable, yellow and white. This actually lifts up. Here's your instruction manual. Shows you the different controls for different games. It's all in English. It says, find accessories for console and portable at. That's kind of weird wording there, but I kind of see what they mean. There's a portable Genesis they have, and you can go to their website at games.us. This is the Atari Flashback as well, advertisement. Let's plug this thing in and see how it actually works. So I plugged it in and powered on. You have this selection here. You can push the D-pad down and up to scroll through the screen here, the menu screen. You also push left and right to go through each screen a little faster. I am using the wireless remote. So far, the remote seems to be working okay and responding fairly well, at least to the menu here. Here are the random ones, the homebrew ones at the bottom. Let's check out Comic Zone. This is one of my favorite games for the Genesis. And right away, there's no load time. It boosts right up. It's a great beat-em-up game, very unique style beat-em-up game for the Genesis. Definitely check it out. It's probably one of the more unique games on the console in my personal opinion. Next I want to check out, let's check out Golden Axe 3 and see how that runs. If you're a big fan of the first Golden Axe and second Golden Axe, certainly check this one out. You can play as 4 or 5 different characters, if I recall. And press start. The game came out in 1993. You play as 4 characters. Play as the Panther, whatever that character is. It's a great beat-em-up series. Golden Axe, definitely a classic, I believe, originally in the arcades as well. These are arcade ports. I want to select a game that many of us are familiar with. Let's check out the original Sonic the Hedgehog. Audio is a little bit off on all these. I've noticed that about this. The audio is a little bit off. Very subtle. But you can definitely notice it if you've played Genesis before. Great platforming series. You know what? The controls are a little bit off too. The jump button and the response are about a quarter of a second delayed. It makes it's kind of difficult to control, to be honest with you. It's slightly delayed. Definitely noticeable delay in the controls, unfortunately. The last game I'm going to show you for a kind of demo for you that's built in. Let's just pick a random homebrew one that I'm sure none of us have really heard of before. Cross the Road. This looks like a Frogger clone. And sure enough, it is a Frogger clone. All the controls are kind of interesting. You have to push the action button, the A button, in order to jump up, which is a lot different than Frogger, where you just use the directional pad. So kind of a little bit different controls of Frogger, but for the most part, it's a Frogger clone. The first cart I'm going to test is Street Fighter II Special Championship Edition. This is a 24 megabit cart, so it's a pretty large cart for Genesis standards. And the game runs fairly well. This audio is off. The sound is a little bit off. This is my favorite port for the Street Fighter II for the home console. I prefer this over the Super Nintendo version only because the controller, the 6-button controller, works a lot better to me than the Super Nintendo controller. So it's a good thing that this one actually works for the console. Next cart I'm going to test is Phantasy Star 3, and unfortunately, I couldn't get this cart to work, even though it runs perfect on my normal Sega Genesis. So this game does not work on the console. Next game is Zombies Ate My Neighbors, and I could get this game to work. This game actually works pretty well. Again, the sound and audio is a little bit off, but nothing too noticeable. This is a great game for the Genesis. Also, again, one of my favorite action games. Definitely check this out for the Genesis. A must-own in my personal opinion. Next game I want to test out was Virtua Racing, which is a great port to the arcade. Unfortunately, I couldn't get this cart to work on this console, even though it works on my normal Genesis. Next up is the game Genie. I wanted to see if this actually works, and if actually detected the game Genie, and fortunately, the game Genie does work for this plug and play. Finally, I wanted to see if a Mega Drive game actually works on this console, and sure enough, Mega Drive does work. I tested Mickey Mouse, Castle of Illusion, and it worked great. So it's a great plus that the Mega Drive games do work on this Genesis plug and play. So in conclusion, what do I feel about the Sega Genesis plug and play? Well, we'll start with a positive. The first positive is, as stated in the box, and it should be, it's easy to plug in and play. It's very easy to hook up. I also like the fact that it comes with 80 games built into it, which is great. And I'd say 2/3 of those games I've heard of. I also like the fact that it can play Mega Drive games. That's a huge plus for me. What are some things I don't like about the system? Well, first off, the controllers, the wireless controllers just don't work. There's like 1/4 second delay or so. I might even be sure of that, but it's definitely noticeable in the response time. And it makes some games like Sonic the Hedgehog just simply unplayable. It's a good idea by AtGames to make it wireless, they just don't work. It's a good thing that they added the controller port so you can plug in a normal standard Genesis controller, because trust me, you'll need one in order to play these games on this console. Another thing I don't like about the system is it's not compatible with every Sega Genesis game. It doesn't work as it demonstrated with Phantasy Star 3, it doesn't work with Virtua Racing. I'm sure there's many others that it doesn't work with. And it's just kind of, if you buy this console, keep in mind that some of the Genesis games you may already own may not work for this console. I'd say about 95% of the games I'm sure work for this console, but there's a few, of course, out there that aren't compatible. So do I recommend picking up one of these plug-and-play Genesis systems? Well, I would if you don't already own a Genesis. I'd maybe pay around $40 for it. I wouldn't necessarily recommend paying full price $60 for this thing. If you do end up picking one of these systems up, keep in mind it's not compatible with all the games you may already own. And if you do pick one up, please pick up a standard Genesis controller because it will play much better. Thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Please leave a comment below. Let me know what you guys think of this particular console. If you plan on picking one up, let me know what some of your favorite Genesis games or Mega Drive games are. Leave a comment below. We'll see you guys soon. Take care.